Hello and welcome to another sound booth tutorial. I'm your host, Daniel Jason Booth, and today we're going to look at plosives. All right, what are plosives? Let's have a look. Let's see what Google has to say. Plosive, a plosive speech sound. What I really love about this description is that it uses the word plosive to describe plosive. That's just brilliant. All right, so this second part here, that's probably more relevant. The basic plosives in English are T, K, P, which are voiceless, and D, G, and B, which are voiced. Typically, all we're dealing with in music are P and B sounds, but not all the time. But, if I was to describe it better than what this does, if you think of the word explosive, that's kind of what you're doing. You're pushing out a lot of air in an explosive way, which is upsetting the diaphragm and pushing a lot of low energy into the microphone, and it just can't deal with it. How do we fix these things? Well, firstly, let's have a listen to an example. Here I have a session which is, it's got a little bit of processing on it, but just have a listen.
Boy and girl, take over the world, turn your backs on the problems and leave. How do I just for to die in a pile of autumn leaves? We escape from this world in my adventures. He always made me feel protected when I was in his embrace. Look how things have changed.
So you would have heard at the beginning of that, cheating here because I've marked it out, there are 3 spots that I thought needed some attention. So let's have a listen to that in solo and you'll see, you probably heard them. The first one's pretty obvious.
Boy and girl, take over the world, turn your backs on the problems and leave. How do I just for to die in a pile of autumn leaves?
So these 2 here are particularly bad. So if you're recording, obviously use a pop filter that will help slow down the amount of air that's hitting the diaphragm and disperse it. That's the whole idea of having a pop filter. But sometimes it just, for whatever reason, the singer still can get close enough to be able to push out enough air to upset the microphone. The plosives are quite distracting for the listener. They more or less take us away from the from the illusion that the vocal was recorded in a room full of angels and everything was perfect. It's just not the case. We've got to get rid of these distractions, otherwise it won't capture the imagination of the listener. All right, so how do we deal with this? We could attack it with, say, a high-pass filter, but I know from looking at the spectrum analyzer that it goes up to about 300. If we listen to it at 300, high-pass,
Problems and leave. How do I just for to die in a pile of autumn?
it's not going to sound very pleasant. So generally speaking, I'm not going to use a high pass filter. I don't tend to favor them. If I'm going to high pass, I'll probably high pass at 100 on a male vocal and maybe as high as 150 on a female vocal. I don't see any point. Why would you high pass an entire vocal track just for these small problem areas? It's like, let's tune the entire vocal because the singer sang 2 or 3 notes wrong. Makes no sense whatsoever. The way I deal with this is I go straight for the jugular and attack the problems head on. Other DAWs would probably have something similar to this, but basically you've got your plugins, they come in on your inserts in Pro Tools, and we've also got another way of applying plugins, which is Audio Suite. Gives us access to the same sort of plugins, except it allows us to render in place. So we're actually rendering it into the region that we've got selected. All I'm going to do is literally go in and use my trusty EQ here, dial in 300 and turn it on to high pass. That's all I need to do. I'm going to do these other ones and then we'll have a quick listen. So this one here, this was in... fits into none of the categories we discussed at the beginning of the video. It's actually like a f sound, but there's enough air behind it that it's the same problem and it's the same way of dealing with it. It would be very difficult to treat that with like a dynamic EQ or a multiband compressor because it's in the middle of that phrase. So, you know, I think for that, so I would identify it as that bit there. And I would do the same. I would high pass it. So that's now rendered that into the audio. The next one, this one here. Okay, similar problem. And probably chop it there and render. And then what we want to do is, I'm just going to quickly throw in some crossfades so we don't get any clicks or pops. And that should be it.
Turn your backs on the problems and leave. How do I just foot to die in a pile of autumn leaves?
Simple. You're not applying unnecessary processing to it. You're just going straight for the problem areas and dealing with them directly. So, you know, if you've got a rap vocal, typically they're going to be really close on the mic, get a lot of plosives, even with a pop filter. So that's how I deal with these. If you like the video, please like, share, subscribe. Thank you for watching. Happy mixing.